football game. Now we'll get on to the bread and butter of the game, the team sheets that each team is represented by. Each team is going to have 11 players in offense and 11 players on defense rated, and the ratings are on a scale of X, A, B, C, D, and E. They're slightly different for the offensive players than they are for the defensive players. Essentially, on offense, we have the X rating, which is a specialized blocking rating. We have the A rating, which is a power blocking rating. A B rating, which is the speed blocking rating. A C rating, which are for short, dump, screen, quick types of passes. A D rating for medium and short level passing. And an E rating for long rated passes. However, on defense, X's will not be used. The A rating is strictly a defensive rating against the run. A B is strictly a rating for pass rushing. C is for the same short, flat types of passes that are on offense. The D, however, is for all zone passes except for the C-rated short flat. So a long pass could actually have a D rating used if in fact the defender was just playing zone. And the E rating is for the defender's man-to-man type of coverage rating. It could be either in the D type of passes that the offense throws or the E type of passes that the offense throws. We'll look at some of the ratings on the next page. Okay, here are the ratings tables. Generally, offensive players are rated on a level of 7. And defensive players are generally rated on a level of 3. That's the typical starting average player for most of the ratings. Because these ratings are going to be used against each other, matched up against each other with the offense, 7 usually, subtracting the defense, 3 usually, resulting in 4 usually. There's a 10-sided die that's going to be compared, so a 10-sided die with 0 through 9 on it, 0 through 4, is typically going to mean the offensive player gets to use his card on the team sheet, and a 5 through 9 typically means the defensive player is going to get to use his card on the team sheet. Okay, let's take a look at one of those team sheets, the 67 Trojans. Let's focus on Ron Yeri, the starting right offensive tackle. Now, as we see across the top, his ratings are better than average. On the A, he's got a 10. On the B, he's got a 10. On the C, he's got a 9. On the D, he's got a 9. And on the E, he's got a 9. So Ron Yeri, when matched up with a defender, is going to be considerably better than 50% a winner in those matchups, as opposed to if he was just a 7. So USC running plays off of the right tackle and behind blocking of Yeri should have better outcomes on average than they would running the other direction. Now let's take a look at that 67 Trojans defense. In practice, Mr. Yeri probably faced up many times with Tim Rosevich, the left defensive end, and as we can see, his ratings for the A are a 7, for the B are a 5, for the C a 1, for the D a 0, and for the E a 0. So his run defensive rating, the A of 7, he is considerably better than the average defensive end at stopping the run. And his B rating, rushing the passer, he's also better than average at doing that. However, his C, D, and E are far below average, as we would expect. We wouldn't expect a defensive end to be all that well at covering passes in either the flat zones or the short to medium passing zones, and for that matter, long passing zones. Now, if you recall from the earlier videos, if we choose the Pro Set Formation play cards and decide to run the play Flanker 1 Cross, our Mr. Yeri here on the card, right tackle, on a 20-sided die roll of 6 will have his rating called into question, his D rating, and if we recall, that's a 9. And as you see here, opposite the right tackle, we have a B rating on that same 6 being called. But there's nothing listed there defensive-wise, because whether you're playing with tokens or the electric football figures or solitaire defensive zone cards, you may or may not have a defender here. Now generally you will have a defender here, the left defensive end, Mr. Rosevich. As we recall, his B rating was a 5. So if this in fact turned out to be a D20 of a 6, matching these two up, either the Miggle electric football figure was there or the defensive solo play card said that the left defensive end was there, we'd have a 9 rating minus a 5 rating, which is 4, which with these two turns out to be average, just like two average guys going up. So from 0 to 4 on the 10-sided die, Yeri's card would get referenced, and from 5 to 9, Rosevich's card would get referenced. So this is the core of the design of 4th Street Soccer Football. 2 players matching up. It's not always 2. It will always be at least 1 offensive player, because every play card, a D20 die roll, will call on at least 1 offensive player. And it will call on at least 1 defensive zone. However, we may have no players on defense in that zone. We may have 1 player on defense in that zone. We may have 2 players on defense in that zone, but no more than 2. So the defense goes from 0, 1, or 2 players. There's also special provisions for defensive players known as stacks that we'll get into when we're discussing run type plays. Okay, the punter cards are slightly different in ratings. There are no number ratings. There's a rush rating, not rushed rating, a rushed rating when you're on the other team's half of the field, and a not rushed rating when you're on the other team's half of the field. And if he happens to also serve as a kickoff place kicker, he's got a rating under KO. The rush or not rushed is determined when we get to the punt section about a D20 die roll, depending on how many defenders, 1 to 11, that the defense decided to rush the punter. Now the place kicker also has number ratings, but these are also specialized. You have the 1+ column, 11+ column, 21+ column, 31+ column, and the kickoff column. So from the 1 to the 10-yard line, the first column is used. From the 11 to the 20-yard line, the second column is used. 21-yard line to 30-yard line is the third column, and so forth. Also down on his rating block below, long 15 under Aldrich's case. That's the longest yard line that he can make a field goal from. So in Aldrich's case, the 21+, the entire column is coated with no good field goal results. There are some rules, as we'll talk about field goals, if you want to use some wind-aided rules that can lengthen that 15 by a bit.